What is wealth? This is probably the most important question that there is to do with all the things that lead us to here, to this moment. Wealth, for most of humankind, would have been abundant harvest, health, favourable weather, and probably more than likely spiritual knowledge. Productive land, healthy game, wildlife, to hunt and fish. Now, as we've civilized, all the tropes, all the status symbols that existed in our tribal communities have just been amplified. And then as we've developed currencies and exchange items like coins and gold and jewels and things like that, then they have naturally flowed to leaders to be distributed. And then there's a story between a never-ending amount of either selfish or selfless leaders. And then as more of these tokens have been accumulated, then there is security, then there is the phenomenon of hoarding. Then once there's hoarding, there is security needed to defend your claim. Because wherever there is liquid value, that's what these tokens were symbolically representative of. They were land and its current and future potential kind of distributed. And the idea is that the exchange of those will lead to the improvement of the land. And it did, as far as humans go. We built cities and buildings and infrastructure. And this is all great, and we've done a really good job in this. Mainly a long time ago, and we still use most of the same concepts, although we might use new technologies. Occasionally they're better and occasionally they're worse. But slowly but surely we created what we call economies, and these were disconnected from the base units of wealth that existed in the forebears and the tribal systems, not intentionally. As soon as you liquefy and assume value of future and current value of a land base, then you create this human-made system. And we could never have known, because abundance, we were increasing abundance in humans. The idea that we could have been damaging to the environment, that argument is barely 50, 60 years old, and we're talking about thousands and thousands of years of civilization, evolution. Now, unfortunately, this realization is coming, as usual, at the last minute. Because with the improvement for human habitation, we've increased our population. This is where you get to people that think the answer is to limit the population, and more than likely that is going on. And there's nothing I can do to stop it. There's nothing really you can do to stop it. But I think the most important thing we can do or the most bang for our buck, to use a pun, and this is to the leaders. The leaders are lost as well. They lost control of their systems centuries ago, of their financial systems that were meant to exist underneath them. That's why they have their face on. But we need to have a stock take, and we need to assume regional currencies not this digital Bitcoin. And I've been, I think that was the first step. And then of course this financial industry jumped on that because they were thinking, well, we can just do what we did with the finance. But that came far later in the evolution. If we have a new technology and we can continue it, then this is the time to push the financial institutions out and to buy regal authority. This is by either the papacy or by the crown, and this applies to the Commonwealth. Other regions would be encouraged to do the same thing. But we need to rebalance the books of geographical regions and tie their currency to the environment, tie the land holdings to the environment, and then balance the exchange rate based on key indicators of that environment's health. This is water quality, air quality, and thirdly of all, you can do, and human well-being. Have a census every year. How do you feel? You, for your human interaction with your environment that you are now a stakeholder in. How do you feel this is out of 1 to 10? Now, how do you feel this is for the non-human environment? And then we can statistically use these metrics in an exchange of geographical regions. Get out of this everybody's creating a coin, this Hocktua coin. That shows the absurdity of these latecomers that have really just been parasitic to our entire industry, have come centuries and centuries after the establishment. We're not at space travel as far as this digital currency goes. We are at the first coins. And so we need to immediately refocus all attention, get the historians out that understand this evolution of how this all happened. And while the authority is still there, before these financial entities attempt to enslave us in a pokey machine, we need to immediately create micro regions within our larger Commonwealth region. So Tasmania, you'd split that up into 4 regions, a bit like electoral regions, and you'd have a currency that is based in that region. And to exchange out of that region, you immediately come into exchange rates. That's where potentially there can be fees for that. That's how we can balance the global economy. And inflict not a tax, not a tariff, but a forcing instrument that forces regions to balance their economic output with their with their environmental effects. Then all of this becomes, see, all we really have as far as real estate goes is we have beachfront property or something with a view. This is 2 variables, and real estate agents have been using this for thousands of years. To add a stock market of environmental, which is becoming obviously such a high concern for so many people across the globe, then we can kind of shift things, and we're inevitably going to end up with regions that become polluting regions. And this is what we've done with China. China has become the polluting region. Now, in some ways, we have to justify this a little bit because they've been behind the 8 ball as far as industrialization and moving their population out of poverty. But their recent infiltration and disruption of our societies is just showing the mentality that this free-flowing, at the moment, American dollar, without any ties to anything, is a failed system. And so this doesn't become a global exchange currency. This becomes a global exchange marketplace tied directly to the environment of the location. Now, all of this would have been very difficult to do with paper and calculators and accountants. But with the blockchain tied automatically with artificial intelligence to market indicators, we can shift the kind of trading professions, not all of them, but some of them that are becoming obsolete because of the changing generational attitudes towards consumerism. We can change that and re-employ those professionals with just slight variations to their already high-level skill sets to incorporate this environmental share market in combination with specific geographical region currencies or microcurrencies. So almost if you think of like a golf handicap, we have the base Australian dollar, and then you're either negative or positive on that base Australian dollar, depending on your micro-geographical environmental attention to the environment, attention to things that aren't human economy or for human benefit. It's all easily doable. There's a stimulation to the overall global economy because there's a whole bunch of new things. But unlike the kind of rampant entrepreneurial, parasitic, understandable because that was just the period of the world that we're in. We're in a global financial evolution. It led to there, which led to the innovation of the blockchain, of Bitcoin, which led to these things. And this becomes then existing coins that are going to be kind of pushed out of obsolete by if we are successful in making this move, it gives people an option to opt out of those and to transfer into these other ones with hopefully limited losses rather than that just vanishing. I think there's a thought that there's going to be a few cryptos that are going to come out and big. I don't think that's right. I think maybe Bitcoin is the sensible base to base this entire marketplace on. And then you're just doing a handicap based on plus and minus on your base Bitcoin rate down to geographical currencies. This can all be completely automated and you're not going to notice it because your region is going to, if it's plus, it should all balance out. And then there's an emphasis. You might want to move somewhere where the environment, and then it's all balanced between transport and things like that. It's just an entire new marketplace to inject so much opportunity. And as I said, this is the actual evolutionary position we should be in, because we are in a trap as humans, and this isn't just this technology, this is all our technologies. We're failing to go back to first principles when we're iterating in almost every single technology. We didn't look at the damage that the plough may have been doing before we tractorized it. We didn't look at that monoculture agriculture before chemical fertilizers. We didn't look at, potential holistic health approaches before mass manufacturing vaccines. We are in a frenzy at the tip of the plough, at the tip of the bulldozer blade, non-stop. You know what I mean? And we're forgetting to look back at what we've bulldozed and see if there's diamonds in there or gold in there. Because just the focus of the entire world is on the tip of the bulldozer blade. I think this frenzy is understandable and acceptable. We had, space race. We had this drive to technology. We had a Cold War, amplification of technology. We've been in a war to innovate. But I think it's time to polish down and to find the jewels that we've left in this clearing. And to do that, you need to understand the timelines of existing technologies. And to give you an analogy, it's like I don't start building a car by choosing the paint color. And this is all we've gotten down to. Every iteration we're making in our technology, in our societal evolutions and design, is all just choosing the paint color or putting new rims on. And it's lazy. It's the same as this advertising with the AdWords and things and targeted advertising. We've become all sell and no innovation, no finesse, no perfecting. And it's all first principle stuff. You have to understand what a currency is, what it's doing, what its evolutionary structure was. And presumably we should, if we're thinking about incorporating a new digital counterpart, like already in my mind, the digital currency analog, just in the form of online banking, is already a failure. These pay, click, and all this stuff has created a fiscally irresponsible generation. It just is not tangible enough, and I would consider it illegal. I would consider it at a casino because of that, especially to people that haven't had adequate experience in the physical counterpart. If you're ushering a generation straight into it, at least if there was a marketplace that had a metric attached to it. And I think it's a solution. Like, power distribution has had successes and it's had failures. And I think this is a perfect way for the world to remember why we have a king at the top of our monarchy. You know, for a history lesson for the whole world. It's like, well, this is when money started. Money started just as an easily transportable exchange instead of mass barter on everything, because it simplifies everything. And I've spent 20 years trying to, destroy this, only to find that it's a beautiful invention. It's just we're iterating at the wrong place. And we're missing the opportunity of a lifetime to perfect, to reiterate a system and that's the incentives. It's the incentive on environmental, rather than be because government is going to do it wrong. Government is the least efficient thing, and this is what Doge is showing in the United States. It always makes everything worse because it's got to go through too many hands. If I want to move somewhere in the future, I want to know what its environmental rating is, and I will incentivize all financial transactions from then on by relocating to a place that it has a high score. That is highly concerned. How concerned is this location with its environment? How many trees did it plant per population or per acre? How many, how much diversity is it increasing? What's the air quality like? What's the water quality like? That's how I, and I think a huge cohort of world population is going to make decisions, because that, for me, would be the status symbol. I don't really want a fucking Gucci whatever, or a Louis Vuitton whatever, or even really a car. I just don't want. I don't actually believe that it's giving the status symbol. And I have to, I suppose, say, yeah, I would be doing it for status. Kind of, not really, but people will. I'd be doing it because when I put my head under the water, I can feel content. And I suppose that's always been status. If you feel content with your environment, you have a high status, and it has been a place that high status individuals have gotten used to. And then there's a financial compromise you can make. And it will lead, as I said, to regions where people don't fucking care and they're polluted. And that's kind of like the casino. It's like, when I walk in the casino, and if I gamble, I know I'm going to lose. Or if I smoke cigarettes, I know I'm going to die. It's like, if you want to move to the cheaper place and you don't care about the environmental rating, you want to, and then that's the other way. Because especially in Perth, and Perth's a great example of the urban sprawl. It's like that's just all the same. For me, the difference between a single story brick and tile and a 2-story brick and tile with a bit of a front garden and the furniture, I don't care. When I go in those houses, I feel weird. If someone has one of those houses and it's filled with all this fucking furniture that they've probably got on finance, it's like I feel very strange in there. I would feel far better going in someone's tent. You know what I mean? And that is not a reflection of status. It hasn't been in a long time. It's imitation status. And I think it's worthless. And I think it's been overdone. And I think we need a new metric. And this metric will compete with the existing ones. It's like, this is close to whatever, and this is close to this. And you're going to immediately see that the urban areas have a lower environmental score, and people will make either one of that option, but at least it gives us a market to operate in, because at the moment the only market is I leave and I go and plan on how to sabotage. And I've been there before. I don't want to be an environmental terrorist. I don't think that should be the only option in the world right now. In my opinion, the CCP are acting like economic terrorists and environmental poachers. And so I would like a way to outcompete them within a marketplace. And I don't believe that this simplicity or simplified version of, we need a global currency. No, we don't. We do not. These exchanges are done instantaneously. And can be incredibly complicated. So if you're just going from plus negative handicap on an AUD, then to a Chinese, and then if you need to deal directly with a specific region in China, then you go plus or minus in China. They're not going to like it because they're polluting. But that's a far more efficient and world approach rather than this tariff trade war. Albeit, I think, the perfect way to start a conversation is to just say, fucking just throw the anchor down, which is what it did. But this, considering the environmental concern that a lot of United States citizens have, this is a way to just take the whole global currency thing off the table. If you don't want to, if you don't want to play, then you just stay with your nationalistic currency. But then you'll be watching us have the benefits. So, yeah, just initial. Obviously, I haven't gone through and worked out all the fucking intricacies. But pitching a golf handicap currency to the most famous golfing president seems like a good idea to me.